This is part 5 of the ATC185, and like we went through on the last part of part 4, we've got some parts to put on and we've got a tank to paint. I've got all of the decals off, and I always go back and forth about whether I plate or seal the inside of the tank with, the tank sealer, the epoxy, the Coswell stuff. And if I'm going back and forth, if I'm waffling, I just have to do it. Because I've had too many restorations where I thought, oh, these tanks are good. You look inside and there's, nothing showing that's too ugly. This one's very clean inside. Except down here in the bottom, there's a couple of areas that I'm seeing some rust inside the tank. And when I started taking off the paint here, I noticed right where the seat was sitting against the tank, probably sitting out in the rain for God knows how long. This is pretty deep rust pitting here. It's probably, I'd say it's a 50-50, so I'm going to go ahead and order the tank sealer and get that sealed. And then in the meantime, I'm probably going to work on the tank a little. Since I went down to bare metal, I did an acid etch or a primer with a self-etching primer. So it's all nice and one color now. And the dents do just kind of pop out at me. There's one here. There's a couple in here. And then there's obviously the big one. That dent there. But there's also one over here. A little bit of a dent right in there. The rest of the tank is, just ready for a high build primer. So let's get some filler on those dents. This is the filler. And it's kind of a, with motorcycles, you're not doing huge dents like you are in an automobile. So that is kind of a glaze filler, but it's a two-part. It's got a hardener and it works great. I've used this forever. In fact, it's getting so thick that I have to take it out with a popsicle stick. It doesn't squirt out the top anymore, but it still works. And that's a good first fill there. Probably going to take 2 or 3 on that one. These will probably sand right out. And then there was a little pit here. And there's probably about a handful of other little pits. I know it's a dirt bike, but I like everything perfect. So we're going to get this to cure up, and then we'll sand it down. And we're still waiting for the Caswell liner. And that's how it goes with these things. You get to a point and you have to order something. And when you order it, it sets you back a week. But it doesn't with me because I have the ATC70 that I can work on in the meantime. And I am going to do this tank at the same time. So in the ATC70 video, I'm not really going to go too detailed into the tank and the paint. I'm going to paint the forks and the tank right along with this ATC 185 tank. So, and I'll make note in the 70 video that you can go to my 185 and see how I paint it. I mean, they're in all my videos pretty much, so I don't need to reinvent the wheel again. So let's get that cured up and then put our second coat on, sand it off and put our second coat of filler. The first thing I do after I put the filler on is as soon as I can, I try to dry sand with 220 or even 150 to get the high spots off, and then I go to a wet sand with about a 150. So I've got this dent out. This still has a low spot right in here, so we're going to fill that. That's completely out. Keep in mind that the filler or the high built primer is just a miracle worker. So now you can see there's a little ridge here, and this is high, so I'm going to feather out here. This is all good. I'm not going to try not to touch this. I've got this curve in here, got this going. I've got to fill here and here, and these are some areas that I'm probably not going to touch right now. Maybe I will, because once you get all of that fairly flat, I like to cover it with another primer coat so I can see where I need to fill. You know, I don't want to sand off areas I don't need to sand. I want to get to a guide coat situation as quick as I can. After the second coat of filler, this is completely out. We're good here. We're good up to about here. There's a little indentation here and here that won't get taken care of with the high build primer. So I'm going to come all the way around here with filler to bridge this high spot in here, and that'll fill in all this. I'm going to hit this, I'm going to hit that, and then over here everything is out here, here, and here. There's a little nit here, and there's a larger one here. Now this could sand out, but then I'd take off too much of this. So I'm just gonna zap that, maybe zap that. The parts manager is saying it's time to go outside. Yeah, he worked all weekend long ordering parts, and he had to check some, make sure they're all right. But before we can do that, Mr. Chico, we've got to show where we put little dab here, a little dab there to fill those pinholes, and then we filled in that low spot. So let's get it off. So that last batch of filler I put on, I have sanded it off, and I've got the shape that I'm looking for. I can tell right here there's going to be a little work, but maybe the Miracle High Build Primer will help me there. So from here, I'm just going to do a light scuff on both of these tanks, and then we're going to start with the High Build Primer and a guide coat. Here they are, ready to get their first coat of High Build. Now we're in guide coat, and it's looking good. You can see the imperfections in there, and hopefully most of them sand out on the first pass. And this is the CT90 frame. Now I only went on these sides here and on the top because that's, you know, just kind of over the top. Didn't really need to do that. It was really smooth for a frame. And then here's the CT90 tank. So like I said, I'm only going to do this video on the 185. It's the same process. So we are now letting it dry overnight, and then we're going to block sand it. It's time to line the tanks. And here's the liner, the two-part epoxy Caswell. So I'm going to do this video for both tanks, for the 185 and for the ATC70. So the first step is to rinse them with sheetrock, screws, and lacquer thinner, and shake them around and get all, any loose rust and stuff off with the sheetrock screws as an abrasive. Then drain that out, dry it, and line it. And I'm not going to go into great detail because I've got plenty of videos that I actually showed the whole process. So we'll move on from here onto the actual final body work and paint. They are ready for a little spot of self-etching primer. and 4 or 5 real nice coats of high build primer, then they should just sand right down and be ready to paint.
And here it is with just enough of that self-etching primer to cover the metal that was exposed. So we're going to go now to the heavy coats of the high build primer.
Everything's really smoothed out nice. This is going to sand out without any problem. You can see, well, it's still wet. You know, that dent was there, all the usual 30-year-old little dings and scratches, all those stuff, all that's gone. Just taking the shape of brand new. It's going to look just beautiful. Probably not need any more filler at all. It's just straight and ready for paint, just to scuff and shoot. One more coat of primer just in case. All right, the guide coat's on and it dried overnight, so it's time to sand this out. And it's going to come out nice. I can already tell it's going to come out just beautiful. She's all ready for paint. And I don't know if you can see it in the video, but it's just beautiful, flat, perfect. That's with the 2 coats of clear, which I normally do more like 3 or 4. But what I'm trying to do here is get back to factory. And factory definitely wasn't this nice, much less any nicer. So, we've got the stripe package. Goes right on. And another reason that I normally do 3 or 4 or even 5 coats of clear is because I've got to bury the decals and the graphics, you know, with a couple of coats of clear over them. But factory from Honda, they just put stickers on the outside, so that's what I'm going to keep doing. So we're going to let this cure up and then we'll put the decals on. And there it is. Got to get the decals on it, but look at that. That color is absolutely spot on. So it looks orange. At least I'm looking at it, it's looking orange, but it's red. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. That's original Honda red, but it comes out orange. I don't know why. Maybe it's just while I'm viewing it and the video itself won't be that way, but there it is. All beautiful and shiny. So we'll let it sit up and cure up for a few days and put some stripes on it. Well, there's the tank. All done with decals. Looking really good. I'll give you a picture back here. Oh yeah. Sanded down the little air vent switch and a little bit of self-etching primer and then just one small light coat, and we'll do about 3 coats. And there it is, all done. I think it looks beautiful. So the ATC185 is done. And this will be the final video. I'm going to do a video of it starting and running down the road. I'll trailer it somewhere. I don't even want to get any dirt on these tires. And if I do decide to sell it, it helps to have the video. But it came out beautiful, of course. You know, you spend that much time on something and it shows. But you look at all the plating, the lug nuts, the metal rings, And it just makes everything so nice, but it also makes everything very, very easy to service. Now, I am still looking for this mud flap. Now, I know that they might unearth a couple of these once they see this video in Shingletown. We're going to get all the bloodhounds. We're going to, let them smell the tank of a 185, and they'll go out into the backwoods and the back barns of Shingletown and release the dogs. If you guys unearth one of these flaps, let me know. But here it is. I'm just totally happy with the tank. This was not going to be a complete showpiece as far as like a concourse sort of rebuild. I realized that polishing this is not factory. But I learned a lot, and I got prepared for the next step, which is the ATC70. And this is going to be closer to concourse. And then finally, the CT70 is my attempt at a concourse restoration. But you can see all the plating here. These were sent where the heads were sent, and they got all cleaned and renewed, and they're in just beautiful shape. So that's the next project, which is actually up on YouTube right now. Most of the restoration is going on with that. But this one is the 185. I don't know why, but it was sweet. It was just the 200. A lot of people preferred the 200. And I don't know why, but I thought the 185 ran really good. I mean, it's like the difference between a 327 Chevy and a 350. You've got people that, the 350's got the more power and this and that. And then you got people who hot rodded the 327, and they said the high revving 327 was awesome. They loved the zippiness. So maybe that's it. This has got just a little bit more zip to it, where the 200's got a little bit more grunt. But there she is. And I had a lot of fun with this. So this is ready for the Shingletown Parade. See you on the next video.